Welcome to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Every day, we are looking at some of the signs that are happening around us. In this episode, we are going to see about the strange things that are happening in the sky.
What's so special about the Earth? Earth is our home. It's where life as we know it has thrived. But there are countless other planets in the universe with up to 100 billion in just the Milky Way galaxy alone. So why are we on this one? What makes our planet so seemingly unlike any other? And today, we're answering the extraordinary question, what's so special about the Earth?
Of all the planets we are aware of, Earth is unique and distinctive. Many other worlds in our own solar system or beyond are too hot, too cold, and too dry, barren, big or small to support life. Others lack an atmosphere, a magnetosphere, or a reliable orbit. Earth, as it turns out, is just about right in nearly every domain, and these aspects come together to produce something amazing, life where there was none before.
You could even say that over the course of history, our planet has come alive, which, by all accounts, is pretty special. Today, when we consider the possibility of life elsewhere in the universe and indeed try to search for it, we first have to understand the incredibly unlikely set of circumstances that allowed us to thrive in the first place, here in our particular place in the solar system, in our particular galaxy. It's a result of some amazing fortune and interplay between a number of things.
Earth is in part spatial, but of its place and order alongside its neighboring planets. First, our planet exists in balance with all the others. There are no planetary collisions on the horizon, while the solar system's larger bodies have actually helped to shield us from all manners of asteroids and space debris in the past. Second, and most importantly still, Earth is in the habitable or Goldilocks zone of our solar system. It's far away enough from our sun to sustain liquid water while not being too far to freeze it. When scientists look for other planets with life, one of the first checks they do is to determine whether it too is a compatible positions around its stars. The condition of the star plays a major role though. The hotter the star, for example, the farther out a potentially hospitable planet needs to be. Earth is in the right place for our specific sun, although it's also helped by another vital part of its makeup, its atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere helps to regulate its temperature, keeping us safe. It's rare because it's mainly composed of nitrogen and oxygen, the element that give us life. But much of the reason why Earth can even maintain its atmosphere at all is because it's exactly the right size to do so. It exerts just the right amount of gravitational pull, another crucial cosmological lucky break. The atmosphere of a lot of other planets are often composed of the most abundant elements available, hydrogen and helium, or a large amount of carbon dioxide, neither of which are all that helpful in supporting life. A few atmospheric ricks in a couple of different directions, then Earth could well have wound up with boiling surface temperatures similar to Venus or choked of its potential as per Mars. In fact, early in Earth's life, its atmosphere actually was something like this. It was composed of mainly hydrogen and helium, but again, mostly due to Earth's size, those elements eventually drifted away. Then came a unique sequence in our planet's ancient history, where it effectively built and perfected the favorable conditions we experience today. As a volcanically active planet, Earth spent millions of years spitting out large amounts of carbon dioxide and ammonia, all while its oceans set to work absorbing most of the carbon dioxide. The leftover ammonia was then broken down by the sun's ultraviolet rays, leaving Earth bathed in nitrogen and hydrogen, the latter of which drifted away once more. Over time, as planet life developed, more important of the carbon dioxide was shifted from the atmosphere. But now it was getting turned into oxygen via photosynthesis. And then the path was clear for intelligent life to emerge. The formation of its atmosphere is impressive enough on its own, but it too wouldn't have been possible were it not just for other factors, especially the precise nature of our magnetic field, which act as a vital shield against the harsh solar winds from the sun. Were it not for our magnetic field, generated thanks at the rate at which convocation currents are pushed through the outer core and mantle, then the sun would have stripped us of the life supporting air we breathed long ago.
Taking the two closest planets to us again, Venus doesn't have a magnetic field because there isn't enough convection happening below the ground. And Mars has as good as disappeared because its core also doesn't generate the energy. It's another critical setup where Earth has just the right balance. The presence of a liquid water is obviously another hugely significant fact of Earth, with 71% of our planet's surface covered by water.
Though the exact cause for this is up for debate, it's thought that water and ice first accumulated here via asteroids and meteor impacts when Earth was young. Thanks once again to this particular world hosting the right temperatures at the right times, the water was able to remain, and in time, oceans developed.
Scientists once assumed that the planet in general had to be in a habitable zone to have any chance of hosting water, but those ideas have now been thrown into a major doubt following the discoveries of potential lakes on the Jovian moon, Europe as well as elsewhere in the solar system. But what is known and what further adds to the list of reasons why Earth is spatial is that it has just the right amount of water, not too much to cover everything there is, but more than enough to avoid it turning into a dry and desperate desert. Given that, though the debate on the origins of the life rumbles on, many believe that if it started in water, there is really no over-exaggerating just how key water is to our planet's history. Still, even with optimum temperatures, a reliable atmosphere and enough water, Earth might well have ceased operations a long time before now. Its ability to, in effect, recycle itself is also very important. As far as we know, there is no other planet or body in our solar system that has tectonic plates. Mars and Venus don't. Mercury and the Moon, they have had them at one stage, but no longer. And the gas and the ice giants naturally don't at all have the same compositions as the terrestrial inner planets. The closest we get to set up like our own is maybe, possibly on one satellite like Jupiter's moon, Ganymede, and again Europa, where it's though that there are ice plates moving around and against each other. Aside from shifting continents, triggering earthquakes and forming volcanoes, plate tectonics have also been central in shaping exactly what the Earth looks like, including where the water is, while plate boundaries also act as a recycling point of sorts, making sure that there is continuous change on the surface, all of which leads us to Earth's most special features of all, life itself, and not only simple, single-celled microbes but complex and intelligent beings.
Life has had to survive for billions of years, adapting all the while to eventually develop into us. Everything that's alive today, life has seen of various deadly extinctions and survived long stretches of major upheaval. Yet its continuation is still wholly dependent on a long list of variables staying exactly as they are. We will always need an atmosphere and water.
We'll always need our planet's core to generate a magnetic field and the convection currents in the mantle to fuel change. We'll always require our life-enabling position in this solar system's habitable zone. Given how many things could have turned out differently, it perhaps seems improbable that we are even here at all. But that's what's so special about planet Earth.
And now it's time for the trivial question of the day. What is the fourth planet from the Sun in the solar system?
Option A, Venus. Option B, Earth. Option C, Mars.
And let's find out the answer after a short break. Welcome back to Science Lab. The science are happening because Jesus is coming. Before the break, I asked you the trivial question of the day. What is the fourth planet from the Sun in the solar system?
Option A, Venus. Option B, Earth. Option C, Mars.
And the right answer is option C, Mars. More than 500 people have now been to space, traveling into orbit, going all the way to the ISS, or even as far as the other side of the moon. But these astronauts have never tried to climb the extraterrestrial landscapes they have visited. As humans today set their sights on Mars, with aims to build colonies and inhabitants, it makes you wonder whether we actually have a right to do so. Today we are answering the extraordinary question, who owns Mars?
In a different life, there's an obvious answer to this question. The Martians own Mars. But there's one big problem there because we're yet to prove that Martians of any kind exist. Where space ethics are concerned, though, even if only microbial life was one day discovered on the red planet, it might be deemed unethical for humans to go to Mars and interfere with their ecosystem. But it's a tricky issue with or without the presence of extraterrestrial life.
For example, if you probably wouldn't consider the Earth to be a property of humans, for a hypothetical, objective outsider looking it, there are so many other life forms here and we are vastly outnumbered. And even if it was just us, the idea of outright owning our planet is still a little odd, let alone owning one that we don't even reside on. Nevertheless, it is an idea that's been thrown around before by the people in power. Back when mankind first set its sights on actually traveling to other worlds, who should or should not be able to build in space, and what they were or what they are not allowed to put there was decided by the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. Officially, it has the only exactly snappier title, the Treaty on Principles Governing the Activities of States in the Exploration and Use of Outer Space, including the Moon and the other celestial bodies. It was laid out by governments of the United States, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and since then has gained 109 parties and an additional 23 signatories. In a nutshell, this lengthy piece of legislation, written at the height of a Cold War, sets down important rules banning the detonation, testing, or placement of nuclear weapons anywhere outside of Earth's atmosphere. But the bit we are most interested in is where it stipulates that space is for everyone and has to be used to the benefits of all mankind. This means that right now, no nation is legally allowed to claim territory anywhere in space, including on Mars. Either space doesn't belong to anyone at all, or it belongs to all of us equally. However, any resource a country collects in space, they can claim ownership of. If somebody who were to set up a mining rig on the moon to harvest polar ice, for instance, they had owned water they gathered, but still they would not ever own the land they were mining. Similarly, If a country launches something into space, they still own whatever something is. So satellites, space probes, shuttles, and so on don't automatically become the property of anyone once they are launched into the orbit or beyond. Something like this, the Curiosity rover, will always belong to NASA and the US. All of which means that even if a country builds and populates an entire city on Mars one day, unless the law changes, they did own whatever they built, but still would not be entitled to the land they built it on.
It is similar to the rules on international waters. You could build and own a rig on the high seas, but you can't own the actual water that rig is built above. But despite the clear laws detailing outer space territory, outer space real estate is still a thriving venture. There are a host of companies selling deeds to plots of land, say an acre in size, on all sorts of celestial bodies, on the moon, Mars, and even Venus. While it's true that most who buy the deeds aren't actually planning to build on the moon, they are usually given as fun novelty gifts. Whether or not space deeds are a scam is debatable.
The businesses themselves could argue that they're simply using a loophole because although the Outer Space Treaty says that no nation can own land in space, it doesn't specifically say that no private company can. But even so, these types of claims to Martians or any other type of outer space land are not recognized by any established space administration, and they're not widely expected to hold up in a court of law.
Large-scale private ownership is an issue that could well reach the courts one day though. Big brands like Space10, Boeing, Virgin, the Blue Origin are all vying to go to distant celestial bodies while, in 2016, Moon Express became the first private company to gain permission from the US government to go to the moon. As part of their bid to land the Google Lunar 10 prize, the Moon Express project eventually fell short of its goals, but the precedent has now been set for companies in the future liaising with government to reset the rules of space. Perhaps something like Blue Origin will one day be powerful enough to lobby to get the laws on space territory changed, though it would still be jet buses versus at least the 109 countries on the Outer Space Treaty. Even the founder of Amazon would have his work cut out. The prospect of letting private companies rule rampant in space perhaps isn't for everyone. There are plenty that argue that space should continue to be explored and utilized carefully with all of its mankind's best interests at heart. But not everyone shares this opinion. Alan Wessel, the chairman of the Space Settlement Institute, has suggested that letting private companies into the space would actually encourage growth and could trigger faster development and implementation of space travel techniques. Advocates for private ownership has previously proposed a structure like Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement in the US, where the London company was put in charge and ferried laborers over from Europe. Anyone concerned with space ethics might have a thing or two to say about this, though not least because of how many people died during the formative years of Jamestown, but also because those colonies proceeded to take as much land as possible and were ultimately responsible for the Native American genocide. In this way, adopting a similar kind of attitude towards expanding out into the solar system perhaps isn't the way forward. It could lead companies to believe that they have a justifiable claim over alien landscapes, just on the merit of being there. If Martians do exist in any form, even if they are simply microbes and bacteria rather than fully fledged, complex beings, then even attempting to claim ownership of the land they occupy could be seen as morally wrong. And if it remarkably turns out that there is an intelligent Martian race, we would surely have to abandon our plans to go to Mars, or at least rethink them so that we don't appear as aggressive invaders.
For as long as the situation remains as it is now, though there will always be interest in effectively dividing up the red planet between whichever governments or companies manage to get there. But that interest shouldn't, under current law, transpire into action. It's been held for decades that space is for everybody and nobody can claim the land out there. It's to be used for the good of humanity as a whole and not for exploitation or private gain. And that's why nobody owns Mars.
Humanity's quest for space reminds me of one scripture in the Bible. It says in Obadiah 1:4, "Though you ascend as high as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, says the Lord."
What is foretold in the Bible is happening again in our lifetime. All this shows that we are living in the last days. Lord Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to tune into the Science Lab next time.
Send us photos, videos, news, and YouTube links which are worth sharing. And also send us your feedbacks to our email address sciencelab@angeltv.org. If you have missed any of these episodes, don't worry. You can watch it again and again in our Science Lab YouTube channel. But don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos.
Ask your friends and relatives to watch the Science Lab so that they will know that we are living in the last days. Remember, signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Maranatha.